Hello, everyone. My name is Carol DeVere Johnson. I am the account manager at Carolina Solar Services. I'm kind of happy and sad all at the same time that we are at the conclusion of Solar Safety Week on this Friday, June 24th, 2022. So again, like I said, I'm a little sad about Solar Safety Week being over. We had Frank present on how to create a safety culture. We had Ariana speak about UV exposure. We then followed up on Tuesday with Jessica Jenkins speaking on time management, and Kelly, she's on the call as well. Thanks again, Kelly, for speaking on hearing and vision safety. Then we rounded out on that Wednesday with Alex Luna speaking on code requirement safety training, and Kate speaking on thermal events, the definition really. And then yesterday, we had a great presentation with Paula speaking on gaslighting in the workplace and Dale with wildlife safety. So to end Solar Safety Week on a high note, we have two great presenters here today. We have Mr. Wapamo, who will speak on how safety and production are related. And then Matt's going to have a fun presentation for us with grilling safety. So basically to introduce how safety and production are connected, no matter how many times we order the point, a lot of clients that I deal with always talk about how this is related. So this is why this topic was selected based on our survey of last year. And also there's always a push for production from the clients. And so one of our clients is here to actually talk about how that correlates. And of course, us at CSS and Amicus, we believe that safety is paramount and comes first, as well as production. So to speak a little bit about that will be Mr. Wapamo.
Sure. Hi, good morning. I am Wapamo Osaisai. I am a portfolio manager for New Energy Solar, one of the clients with CSS who manages our own, manages O&M for our various sites. Um, Based out of Houston, I've been with the company now for almost a year and very excited to be here today. So thank you all for having me. Looking forward to be a part of this discussion. Okay, why is safety important? So listed out a few examples here just so that everyone has an understanding. The critical thing regarding safety as it pertains to solar and in any industry in general is that in order to and implement and manage safety, you have to establish consistent industry standards. That way, if buildings are built, they're built to specific codes. Solar farms are built, they're built to specific codes, whether that's construction, electrical. So that way there's consistency that exists to know that people are performing their activities in a safe environment. And these establishment of consistent standards is important because it protects workers and allows them to operate safely. And more importantly, if and when we run into issues, you're able to diagnose what those issues are or how they deviated from the established safety standards. Specifically to solar farms, safety is important because it simplifies O&M work. Whenever you're rolling out trucks to a site, you need to fix something, we want to be able, as long as the site's built safely, you're able to manage things, then in that world, it's easier to troubleshoot, identify what the issues are, document, and execute on necessary repairs. And with this O&M work, it goes along to extend the useful life of assets. Since the sites break down, they need repair, being able to perform the work in a safe environment allows the sites to run longer and generate the energy that they want to generate, which goes down to my last point of you want to also ensure the solar sites are producing power. So the combination of having the consistent standards, protecting workers, and allowing them to do simplified work allows for these sites to generate power on a regular basis, right? And all this power is important because solar sites are built, I'm going to sound like a capitalist, in order to make money, right? I know we have renewable energy targets in the world and climate change and climate emergency, but for the most part, people are looking to see how can I sell, generate power to make money from it. So we have a power purchase agreement, which is a document signed with either private party or separate entity in order to buy the power that you generate at a solar farm. We also have RECs, renewable energy credits, which different companies buy to reduce their carbon offset to get to net zero or something lesser than that and improve emission standards that we have in the US and in the world. Um, Additionally, it's important because we're making use of solar energy and we're expanding the renewable energy supply as we build all of these sites. So this is a high level view of how safety and production are related and why they're important as it pertains to solar sites. We'll go to the next slide, please. All right. So for this, oh man, my picture is crooked. I put the font a specific way. I won't be anal. What I wanted to do was highlight some safety and production instances we've come across at our various sites. Reason for that was that we wanted to be able to give you a little bit of a different view of how we experience some real life situations on the field. So the first one, we have a site out in Chiloquin, Oregon, and we have a lot of gophers and different wildlife on site, which apparently love chewing the wires that connect to our inverters there. So it's a safety issue because the wires are getting chewed. It's affecting production on site, and we don't want to go into a situation where we have down production. More importantly, we have to get rid of these rodents and do it in a safe manner. And so I ask whoever's not on mute to please mute themselves. Um, from a production standpoint, like it's critical to exterminate the gophers. I think my motto has been gopher free in 2023. It's more like as little gophers as possible in 2023, but we'll see. More importantly, we have to use, I would say, proper materials to get rid of the gophers. So there's some traps and gases that are sustainable in a sense to ensure that we're getting rid of the gophers without affecting the topography of the area. Second to that, we're doing repairs and they're limited to a window because it's Oregon, the ground freezes, and we need to be able to perform the repairs prior to the ground freezing and before the water table is too high since the site's right next to a river. So it's a limited repair window where we want to make sure the team's able to get to site, safely perform repairs and leave. And doing all of this while also ensuring that we're protecting the equipment from future damage by minimizing the gophers on site and covering up the equipment to incentivize the gophers to eat the wires in the future. There's also squirrels, but we're focusing on gophers. So next slide. Separate instance we have, this is out in North Carolina, it's Mariposa. We have livestock that graze around one of our sites. And in this instance, for those who are familiar with the technology, there's a GOAB, which is the pole you see in the picture on the right. They shrunk my picture, increased my font. I don't know why. I'll deal with it later. In any case, because the cattle are grazing in the area, sometimes they like to rub up against the posts and get a little back scratch in there. And in one of the instances, the cattle were able to damage the GOAB, which affected the production on site. So we had to shut down the site, secure the area, get the necessary equipment to replace the damaged one and get the site back online. But more importantly, do this in a sustainable way to ensure the cows are not hurt, but they also don't come in contact with the equipment in the future. We can't exterminate cows since we still need them, even though some vegans and vegetarians may disagree. But for the time being, we had a fence put up there that prevents them from getting too close to the equipment. Can we go to the third slide, please? All right. The next item I want to bring up, this is for a site we have out in Lumberton, is that things just break over time, right? And as sites get older, parts get older, they get worn out, you need to replace them. And in some instances, you can anticipate the failures, in other instances, you can't. So in this case, we had a line to the transformer essentially go out on the ground, and we needed to make sure that we're able to get people out to site, identify the location of the fault, dig it up, repair it, all in a safe manner, and get the site back online. Right. So that's the safety event, is this damage. And then how do you manage this? Is essentially you have ongoing site inspections that allow for you to ensure equipment's working properly. If they're starting to degrade, you prioritize being able to replace them at the appropriate time while minimizing downtime as much as possible. And in instances where things just fail during the warranty period that you have, you're able to file warranty claims if possible to get the parts replaced for free. since they failed prior to when we expected them to fail. So highlighting these three instances, wanted to be able to show the various ways of which safety and production are related, some being purely tied to performance of the site, other instances tied to wildlife and or livestock that exist in a lot of these areas that we have solar farms. Next slide, please. So last portion here, question is like, how do businesses manage safety and production? Right. I think the first thing is in any instance where you identify the worker would be at risk, so you do nothing, right? Because that's the most important thing. You always want to keep your people and personnel safe. So sometimes taking no action is the best action to ensure that you're able to get into safe conditions to then perform necessary repairs or maintenance and allow the site to get back online or continue to produce as needed. So that's the most critical thing here. Is always protecting the people who have to manage these sites. Second to that, you have contracts which always have language in them. There's availability guarantees, force majeure clauses, and essentially all of these, I would say, availability guarantees recognize the fact that a site can't be on all the time at peak production whenever there's the sun up for these solar sites. So we're able to say things will happen on site, known and unknown, and we fully expect that up to a certain percentage, there should be availability for the site to perform, right? Since it can't be 100%, the availability guarantee is usually captured to allow for that slippage of these unexpected events. Force majeure, forces of nature, as you know, things happen, floods, fires, XYZ, they're in contracts because it happens, it's the reality, it has to be addressed and recognized. Then lastly, you have insurance, right? You get insurance to allow for safety because in instances where you can't get to site right away or you have force majeure events, you want to make sure you have insurance that cover the adverse events, cost of repairs, and lost revenue. Since they recognize in this business anything can happen as it comes to solar, and you don't want it to be that there's my 10 minutes. You don't want it to be that you're compromising the safety of personnel over the priority of generating at all costs. So you have insurance to allow for us to make these educated decisions that puts safety first at all times. All right, I think that's it for me on my slides. So I appreciate the time. Thank you for the presentation. I did it in 10 minutes. And so any questions? So quiet. I must have done a great job or a terrible job.
Well, Poma, I was curious about this is just I kind of getting into the weeds on the gopher issue, but were there any requirements with like the jurisdiction out there of like how y'all removed them or anything like that? We had a bunch of prairie dogs on one of our site. We had to physically remove and relocate to like a new habitat on site. It's very exciting stuff. But was that something y'all had to navigate? Just kind of curious about that one, like with the jurisdiction on site or anything like that.
For us, I think we're able to, and I think Dale might still be on the call. Like there's certain gas you can use that isn't harmful. So it's like the sustainable use of the gas and traps. I think for the reality is I'm not going to like we essentially built the solar farm in their habitat. So there's not necessarily any sort of relocation. No matter what we do, they're going to come back. So the main priority is just simply to minimize their existence. And at that specific site, we have gophers, we have ground squirrels. Currently, we have a badger who's hunting both of them, and potentially voles. So it's quite the habitat, if you would, that we're dealing with there.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Wapamo, for that great informative presentation. I guess we'll move on to our next presenter, which is on grilling safety. Grilling safety was picked as a fun topic, holistic topic that a lot of us like to be interested in, other than vegans, vegetarians, as Wapamo brought up. I found out that July is the pink month for grilling fires, and then second by June, and this is safety month. So I'll let you take it away, Matt.
Lovely to see you all on this Friday. I'm Matt Herman, the director of O&M services over at Namaste Solar. Got an engineering background, been with Namaste Solar for just about, oh gosh, coming up on 8 years here in August. We got offices out in Boulder and Denver, out here in Colorado. We have about 16 years of experience out here in Colorado. So we've got a really talented team of folks that have been working on solar for quite a long time. On our O&M team specifically, we maintain about 215 megawatts across about 365 sites. So just a little background on what we do out here and what my team does specifically. I just included a little bit about myself. I do a bit of rafting out here. This is my dog, Sergeant Paws. He'll come up later in this discussion, but he's a sweet river boy. He's about 12 years old, but he still gets out there. So we go next slide here. So we'll talk about grilling statistics, general safety around grilling, charcoal specific, propane specific safety precautions, food prep and cooking, and I think the last one here, just community. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. Not necessarily safety related per se, but still something worth touching on. So safety statistics. And Carol, like I said, I have a bunch of red boxes. It's great. Over 10,000 home fires started by grills each year. That's wild. There's actually, I was reading an article about number of wildfires that we are actually started from that. In addition to your home burning down, you really don't want to start a fire that'll take out your entire neighborhood, wild spaces around your home, and things like that. So there's some pretty wide implications from these sort of events beyond just your home being lost. Again, as Kara said, July really big month for grilling fires and whatnot. Personal safety, losing your home's obviously a huge problem there, but over 20,000, close to 20,000 people sent to the ER because of injuries related to grilling. About 10,000 of those being actual burns that are pretty significant. And then just distribution, chances are you got a neighbor who's got a grill. So maybe you got to do some education for folks. 64% of all households have a grill, either a smoker, gas grill, things like that. And then actually something I didn't know when I was going through this, gas grills actually contribute quite a bit more as far as fires and whatnot on site. I kind of would have assumed it would have been opposite, but also, just like I said, going through here, that made a little more sense. So just some general safety items. Making sure folks know, of course, you want to have your barbecue grills outside. Don't want to be grilling inside. Not ideal. You want to make sure things are placed far away from your home, deck railings, keep them out from under eaves, overhanging branches, and things like that. Making sure to keep kiddos, pets about 3 feet away. Speaking of Sergeant Paws, he just loves to be under a grill trying to find grease and whatnot. So it's a constant battle trying to keep him safe through grilling. But do your best to keep folks like pets and children away from grills. And one of the biggest things is just keeping your grills clean. Grease fires are a really big part of where a lot of these safety hazards come up. Just making sure before you start grilling for the day, make sure things are nice and clean, emptying out your tray in the bottom where you're keeping charcoal or grease that drips underneath even on a gas stove and things like that. Biggest thing, never leave your grill unattended. Things can get out of control pretty quickly. I'm sure folks have had flare-ups in their grill and whatnot. Especially if you're not following some of these other items with proximity to flammable objects, that can be pretty problematic quite quickly. Talking about a couple things, charcoal specific. We had a little barbecue as a farewell to one of our colleagues yesterday, actually, grilling on charcoal. So it was timely to be walking through here. Using starter fluid and whatnot. I was using lighter fluid. Making sure you're using charcoal specific lighter fluid. You don't want to pour white gas or other things on there. Make sure it's the right flammable substance for the activity. And as tempting as it might be not to spray lighter fluid on your grill while it's actively fired. Not to say I've never done that in my life. I was younger at some point, but ill-advised. Making sure to keep that fluid out of reach of children, of course, and keeping it away from your heat source. So you don't want that lighter fluid sitting directly adjacent to your grill, for example. And then, of course, before you're disposing of any of your coals, make sure to let those completely cool off before disposing them in a metal container. As far as gas grills, one of the biggest thing is when you're, starting your season out. Again, it's coming into June, July, making sure to you don't have any hose leaks or anything like that before using it for the first time in the year. I'm sure folks have hunted for leaks in inflatable things before, but using some soapy water and something like that can help to identify if there's any issues. Making sure your lid is closed before lighting. You don't want your grill open while you're doing that. And then, if you smell gas while you're cooking, you definitely want to get away from that grill. NFPA recommends calling fire department immediately if you've got a gas leak and can't manage it. If the flame does go out, after you've turned everything off and stepped away, you can go ahead and, just again, make sure to turn that gas off and wait at least 5 minutes before relighting it. Again, these are guidelines from NFPA that I was pulling from here. And then, of course, you hate to poison your guests with, a stomach bug or something like that. So just some food safety items. When you're picking up meat, poultry, seafood, make sure to separate them from other food in your shopping bags or in your cart. You don't want any cross-contamination there. Make sure to keep things refrigerated. If you're cooking lamb, though, maybe bring it to room temperature if you want that nice medium rare there. And of course, making sure to wash your hands with soap and water before you're handling raw meat or anything like that. And then, of course, using a food thermometer, make sure things are cooked nice and thoroughly. I don't know, folks, that might, if you're looking for like the right texture, just a little fun thing. If you all don't know it, like you can use your fingers to stiffen up the meat on your kind of big chunky part on your thumb. You got like your sort of rare, medium, and then well done. You can feel that muscle tensing up. So if you're trying to sort through poking your meat to understand where it's at, that's another route you can take. But chicken, things like that, definitely using a thermometer to suss that out is helpful. The last thing, again, whether it's related to safety or not, we're getting out of COVID right now, and there's a lot of folks, that have joined my team of late that I've never actually seen in person. There were two people actually at this last barbecue I'd never met before, and making sure to go out of your way to make those folks feel welcome, I think is really important. I think we've talked about this week, safety within workplace, and I think this is a really big part of that is making sure folks feel welcomed and really part of your team. And barbecues are a fantastic way to do that. So just as folks are firing those up and celebrating the summer and getting solar installed and everything, just make sure to create a welcoming atmosphere for the folks on your team. That wraps it up for me. So just want to thank folks. Feel a lot of pride and appreciation for being able to close out this week after some wonderful presentations. And folks have questions, I will pass it back to you here, Cairo. So thanks for the time, everyone.
Thanks, Matt, for a great presentation. Well, guys, as Matt described, do you guys have any questions before we end the call today? All right, well, thank you all for your time. This is the end of Solar Safety Week, second annual. We at CSS and Amicus deem that safety moments build a strong safety culture and keep us all in the safety first state of mind. So thank you for your time this entire week. Look out for an upcoming survey within the next couple of weeks. And you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon if you're on the East Coast.